welcome, Carmel.
Thank you so much for having me, Karen. Great
Oh,
to
it's
be
my
here.
absolute pleasure. I love chatting with you. Maybe it's your Irish accent. I'm always expecting jokes.
Well, I don't know if I brought any, but let's see how we go.
You've just got this knack of just knowing exactly what's needed, exactly what to say. You know, you just switched on, and I absolutely love it. You're fantastic. But no, there's no buts. This is just great. So you're the self-professed communication queen, and I absolutely love that. But before that, what were you doing? Like, how did you lead your life? How did your life lead you to become the communication queen?
Gosh, what was I? Well, back in Ireland one day. No, I am from Ireland, as you've said, but I'm the youngest of five daughters in a little small two-bedroom house in a town, seaside town in Ireland. But for most of my life, I started working in hotels, in the local hotel when I was in Ireland. And I always, no matter what other job I took throughout my life, I always had hospitality in the background. So when I came to Australia, that's more or less what I did. I did have a brief stint in a Toyota factory for a while making cars, but I was still working in a pub at night. So I was always into, and in hindsight, I'm looking back now, it's like because I was a people person, I literally got invigorated by being around people, although I didn't exactly know or identify that. So when I came to Australia, it was an easy transition. And when I was in Australia, then I built up to management and upper management. I became a trainer. But I also found when I came to Australia first, even though I speak the same language, one of the big barriers where I'd say certain things and people had no idea what I was talking about. And it's not just my accent, it was the words and the sayings. So communication was always kind of there. And as I grew and got more and more qualifications, I actually became a trainer for hospitality because I was so passionate about the managers were getting upset about this and the staff were getting upset about this. If they could all just communicate, for God's sake. And that's when, in hindsight, that's how it kind of was born. But the actual name, the communication queen, came out of, I went into hospitality recruitment because it was still hospitality. And I came to a point where it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. What can I do? And I didn't know. My kids had grown up. I was like, well, and so I said, well, I love working with people. So I stumbled across coaching. So that was where I started to study coaching. And I had a deep coaching session with a really experienced coach. And we had a visualization and all this. And that's how the name, the Communication Queen, was born. Because during that session, it's like, what are you passionate about? And it's like, I'm passionate about getting people to be able to communicate in a way that it's effective, that they know what it is. Because the biggest illusion is in communication is that it's occurred. Because I told you, what do you mean you told me? Because they don't have the ears to listen to it. So that's how it was kind of born. And at that time, I left that hospitality job after a few years with the intention of going into hospitality and teaching all this leadership and team building, which I did for a while, and I ran so many workshops on it. The truth is a few things. Number one, I actually wasn't able to market myself, although I didn't really realize it at that stage. And number two, because I couldn't do that, then I wasn't getting people that wanted to pay me to do it. So I had to go back and get a job. So I've done that seesaw for many years, but that's kind of how the short story of how the Communication Queen was born.
I love it. And that is a big problem, isn't it? Getting in front of people. Like that's getting your message right and getting it in front of people. And
yeah. And in this time at the moment when, social media and there's all these bits of information coming everywhere, the getting in front of isn't the biggest problem. It's getting in front of the people that you can communicate what it is that they need to hear so they know you're the right person to help them. Yeah. Like there's lots of coaches, there's lots of businesses, there's lots of consultants out there, but what makes one different than the other? Yeah. And most of it is just their ability to market themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. When you a single mum, like at what point did you become a single mum and how did that impact your business?
Well, at that stage, I was still working full time. So that was, a good few years ago. And again, it's really easy to reflect on it and see the lessons, but at the time I didn't. So I split from my ex-husband. I was a single mom, 3 kids, a teenager, and down to a 6 or 7 year old, my youngest. And I was in fear. That's the only way to describe it. Absolute fear. I actually, in desperation, we lived in South Australia. So I've lived in Victoria, then in country Victoria, then in South Australia, and then in Perth. So we were in South Australia at the time, and things got that bad. I actually, it sounds dreadful now, but it was obviously desperation. So we lived upstairs in a pub. And I remember my ex-husband going away for the weekend. He went to Melbourne Cup or something like that. I packed 2 of my children. My eldest daughter had gone back to Ireland for a while. I literally, when I closed the pub, I went upstairs and I'd take a couple of bags and I'd bring them down the stairs and I'd walk right through the pub and I packed them in my car. And I'd do that trip about 10 times. And then at the very last thing was I brought my 2 children down. I packed what I could in the car and I drove from South Australia to Perth. That was pure and utter desperation. When drive across the Nullarbor, no air conditioning in the car in November, so in the height of our summer, with 2 children that not long before had had their measles and mumps injections. So they were intermittently running fevers, and pure desperation, I drove to Perth because I had a sister here.
Yeah.
Yeah. The impact of that was, of course, I came here. I didn't know anyone except for my sister and a few friends. So I worked in hospitality in whatever I could take. Myself and my ex-husband actually got back together. He came to Perth for a little while, which is always a mistake. You know, you leave for a reason, but we do that. And I think it was 12 or 18 months after that we finished for final. But I remember having a job, a couple of different jobs. Again, in hindsight, I would not tolerate what I tolerated from those bosses now, but I was a desperate woman that needed a roof over my children's head.
Yeah.
Because, and look, I don't have any, actually my ex-husband has since passed away. I don't have any animosity to my ex-husband. We were the people we were and all of that sort of stuff. But financially, he couldn't sustain or support us. So it was a real struggle. And whether it was a struggle or not, it's funny, it's your perceived struggle. So therefore, and yet I was a smoker. And that's what I always say to people, your values are your values. To me, smoking at the time was my crutch. I didn't drink, I didn't whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I went and I did drink for a while. But hindsight is 20/20 vision. You can't see it when you're going through it. I certainly worked for one man who liked a few more of these than he should. He used to sack me every 3 or 4 months. And I'd be at home, I'd get a phone call, are you coming into work today? You sacked me the other night. Did I? Right. But that was high stress and high tension.
Yeah.
To accept that, I suppose really we'd call it abuse almost from that person. But I thought there was no other way out.
Wow. Did you get back on your feet, like with moving over to the communication stuff and the training? Were you trying to train people with 3 little kids, with 3 younger kids?
So I actually studied to become a trainer. So I got a job in the casino area here.
Yeah.
And part of the deal I struck was, right, I'll run your Irish bar for you, but you'll pay for my certificate in workplace training and assessment was actually what it was. So I did that over 18 months. And I always remember, we think about defining moments, going down to the human resources guy and go, right, I've done my training. During that time, the casino here actually rebranded. So while I worked there, I helped, I think, up to 1,000 people that we had all the staff come in and we had to educate them on the rebranding and, get it all, there's blah, blah. So myself and a couple of other trainers did that. So I was really getting into it. So I went down to this guy and I went, okay, I've trained as a trainer now. Where can I go? It'd be complex, surely there's something. And I always remember the words. He said, can I speak off the record? And I went, yeah, sure. He said, you're too good at what you do. They'll never give you a job as a trainer.
Oh, wow.
And So I was too good as an Irish bar manager. And I remember going away and thought about it in my head. And I went, well, they've actually just shot themselves in the foot, because when I leave, they still won't have the Irish bar manager.
Yeah.
So, it was one of the first times I left a job without knowing where I was going.
Yeah.
So something changed in me around that time that I went, nah, no more.
Yeah.
And that was more of the transition. Then I went into the recruitment, but part of the recruitment was we had temporary staff. So it was a boom time in Perth at the time. So we had 450 temp staff that we were putting out to any venue. So I would train them, but I was also the person they would all send out to get the contracts because of my communication skills. So I would train some of our managers, but more our staff, how to make sure that when they arrived, they represented us really well.
Yeah.
And so then I started running workshops because I had been in the bowels of every hotel and restaurant in Perth City. So I got lots of people at the workshops, but my two things. Number one, I didn't always get the decision makers. They just threw their staff or their managers to wherever. But also my inability to market the benefits of what I could do fell really flat. So I was out of pocket because I was paying for venues and in the city and showing up in my heels and my little jacket and doing all this and doing the do. But I actually financially couldn't do it. And that was a big kick in the guts to have to make the decision, well, actually, I have to go back to work. And I think a lot of businesses do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you decide, okay, I get it now. It's about my marketing. I really do have a lot to offer, and
yeah,
I've got to get my marketing right. What was the catalyst that made you say?
I don't think that I realized that was the issue, but it was around the time I worked for a restaurant chain where I looked after 3 states and blah, blah, blah. I was all around Australia. And another defining moment was I was in South Australia. So my sister here in Perth had been ill. She'd had a heart operation. Then she was going to get some checks. She wasn't breathing properly. And I always remember getting the phone call in Adelaide when she told me that they had done all the tests and discovered she had stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I literally said to myself, I will never be in another state for somebody to ring me and tell me that she's dead.
Yeah.
It was that simple. And something changed in me, although, it takes a little while, but within 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 months, I had resigned from my job. I had decided something's got to change. So I have all this knowledge, I have all this stuff, I've done all these courses and certificates, surely I could do something with it. So I went and touched base with a mentor that I had touched base with many years ago. I went, I'm serious about this shit, something's got to change. So I did some casual work in the 15 months while my sister was ill, because I wanted to be there as much as I could. But in the background, I was talking to this mentor all the time. And it was then I discovered, through his poking and prodding, that it was my marketing that was lacking. He said, you have qualifications up and down both arms, but you can't communication queen, to the person that you need to, aka your avatar, ideal client, whatever word you want to put on it. So we started working on that. So that was when I identified it. I didn't know what it was. I just know there was something not right. And obviously my sister passed away then. So my sister passed away. It will be 5 years now in December of this year.
Yeah.
And since then, I've never, I went back a little bit and went, okay, I need to get some cash to do this. And I've done that. But now I'm full-time in my business. I teach other people how to market their business because it was such a big thing for me. And really getting so clear on the right message to the right person at the right time. And we can only ever control 2 of those. The timing is something that when it comes around, it'll come around when the time's right for them. But if we're not talking the message that we need to, they're never going to hear us.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the big, I suppose, that's 6.5, 7 years ago that I went, oh, it's my marketing. But
it's hard, isn't it? Because, unless you actually can put your finger on that thing that's missing, It's very hard to just, in hindsight, we look at things and we say, oh, that was so obvious.
Yes.
In the moment, none of us are very good at just saying, yes, I've looked through this, I've analyzed it, and I know exactly what it is. None
Yeah,
of us, we usually need somebody external to say, well, you've
we
got to.
do. Because what happens is that we quite often consume our own message. So we get so insular and we go, oh, I love to hear this because that's what would help me. But hang on, that may be not what would help them. And we have to really look at the language, even though it may be the same thing underneath, it's the language they're using around it. Yes. So that you can actually talk to them in their language. And I think in hindsight, again, that's why when I did the coaching, I went, oh, okay, let me do the NLP. Then I did behavioral profiling. Then I did spiral dynamics. Like when I look back on it now, it was all different ways of how people communicate and how I could get inside their head. And that I've been like that since a 3-year-old. I used to take the arms and legs off the dolls, not to break the dolls. I wanted to know how they worked inside.
Yeah.
And a crochet hook is really good to get the elastic band back into. I discovered that because I have an insatiable curiosity, and I think I died it down for a while when you have kids and that sort of thing, especially in Ireland. I'm not saying it's not anywhere else. You're very much taught you take second place and everything else has to be first. So I took on the burden of responsibility that I was handed. My dad showed us very well how to do that. So that curiosity wasn't allowed to come out. She used to pop her head sometimes, but I have an insatiable curiosity, and especially how people think and communicate.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. When you did decide to go out and do it, and you said, okay, I know what the gap is. Your mentor said, you have to do communication, you have to get your marketing right, blah, blah, blah. So when you said, I've got it, okay, let's get this right. And then you started to take, you injected it into the marketplace.
Yeah.
What setbacks did you have? It wouldn't have been a smooth run because nobody has a smooth run. But it's kind of sold as a smooth run very often.
1,000,000%. It's sold like this, but what it truly is like and round in circles. And look, there has been, I used to call it failing forward, and they were called, no, it's adventuring forward. So somewhere, and I really do attribute this to my sister. So when my sister passed away, like there was a whole lot of stuff around. We had gone to Ireland so she could say goodbye to our parents, all of this. So when she passed away, my dad died within 6 weeks.
Wow.
Absolute broken heart. There's no two ways about it. So we're here in Australia. It's like we're going to Ireland. We're back. Mother's nearly died. Now she's okay. Now sister has died. Daddy's died. It's like, and mother is 90 next. We better go back for that. And then mom passed away within 12 months too. And I don't say that as in, oh, you poor thing, but it's like there was a lot going on, but something in there in me broke is the best way to say it. And I don't mean broke as in I'm broken, I need to be repaired. Something shifted drastically.
Yeah.
And to put it in an Irish way, I decided I couldn't give an FUCK anymore in terms of what people thought about me. So as naturally as human beings, we position ourselves to be light because that's how we survived. And I was always, the flamboyant, ta-da, and positioning to be light underneath it. I always wanted people to like me. If you look back at hospitality, everything, it was all positioning to work with people. But something in me shifted and I went, I don't care what people think about me anymore. I'm going to do what I can do to make a difference with the people who need me to help them. And I don't give a shit what gets in my way. So if I had to face plant on the way and stuff it up, then I was prepared to do that. So there was a lot of setbacks, but I was happy to do the face planting. I was happy to jump off the side of the building and then go, shit, I should have had a parachute on there. Because I knew with the mentor I had, for example, and even he said to me at one stage, he said, something's changed. The trust deepened. I knew he had my back in terms of his advice would always be in my best interest. So I fell forward. I just kept adventuring and saying what worked, and then I go, whoa, that didn't work. I started running. I was part of a coaching school, so I used to run webinars for them. I used to mentor their students, but then in Perth, I used to run like a connecting place for coaches, if you like. I started putting in topics, no 100% idea whether people wanted them or not, but I was testing how many people did I get in the room for that topic. How many in that? I think it's this topic. Let me see if it works. I literally went out if I got 10 in a room or if I got 30 in a room, if I got 100 in a virtual room, I was testing. I was saying, this is what I think it is. Let me see if that is it.
Yeah.
Does that answer you? And I stuffed up so many times.
Yeah.
So many times. It's not funny. And every time, even now, I did a workshop on Saturday, a video workshop on Saturday. My hands go cold. All the blood leaves my hands. My hands go cold every time I'm presenting. It still happens, even though I know the content, because it's important. If I can help one person get unstuck in that marketing business, well, then that's cool for me.
Yep. Yep, 100%. And I think one thing you're saying in there that's really important is saying, the willingness to fall flat on your face, and I think that we fear falling, but what we should be focusing on is, well, how many times do I get back up? Am I able to get back up when I fall? Because
1,000,000%.
As an entrepreneur, we're going to fall and fall and fall, and we're going to test things, and they're going to be shitty. Some things are going to be great. Some things I find myself, things that I think are great, they don't always grab, and then something that I think is like, oh, who cares about that? People are like, oh, you should do that. You should do that. It's like, okay, really?
And sometimes that's because that becomes such an unconscious competence for you. You're so used to it. It's like, oh, what are you talking about? They go, oh my God, I never heard that. That's great. And you're like, oh, right, yeah.
It is. I mean, like I was saying to you, a few weeks ago, this team building, I've done years of team building and I kind of put it aside, but now everybody's saying to me, oh, do you do team building? And I'm like, where is it? I don't know where this has just sort of suddenly come up from, but I'm going to go with it because I am bloody good at it. So I'm just going to go with it. And like you say, the end result is, how many people does that help? And if it helps people, then you should do it. You talked in there, look, there's so much you've said, I get this bit about your sister dying, I lost mine too. And I think unless you've been there, you don't realize how much of a catalyst that is, to really put a rocket under your bum and say, that's it. Something's got to give, life's too short. And I think that we forget that life is too short until something like that happens. And we just sit around, making excuses and saying, yeah, but what if people don't like me? And, oh, what if I fail? It's not until we really feel some kick in the guts that really, really hurts that we start to think, you know what, life's too short for this. I'm going to leave a legacy and I'm going to make an impact. And it's hard, but you've got to take the goodness out of it and say, well, I'm glad it's happened. I'm not glad it's happened, but since it's happened, I'm going to make the most of it, and I'm going to improve life for everybody, as a result. So,
it's so true. I often say that one of the biggest gifts my sister gave me was to actually pass away and leave me that legacy, give me that kick, if you like.
Yeah.
And you're so right that our little family unit had never been hit so hard either. Yeah. So it was a whole, and nobody gives you, although there are books on it, but nobody can give you the handbook for you.
Yeah.
And it's just a whole process, but it has certainly cracked me open in a way that I could never go back to the old shell. And that's what it was. I had a shell or a mask up around me where everything was okay. And one negative thing, in one way that hospitality has taught me, I suppose, was I had the habit of always disassociating. Because you go into hospitality and you go, oh, well, leave your troubles at the door. You have to show up and put a smile on your face. But it had ingrained in me as a habit rather than a tool I can use. So I can actually use that as a tool now because I can be very unemotionally invested in something to analyze it. Whereas before, that's where I was living, unemotionally uninvested in everything so that I could survive.
Yeah. A lot of
And
people
that's a big shift.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
a lot of people do that, and like you say, it's a tool, isn't it? If you use that tool properly, I've been using that tool since I was 15 because of being on stage as a muso. Do you know, being able
Yeah.
to just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
drop it at the side of the stage, then pick it back up again. And boy, have I picked it back up again. You know, people have copped it straight after my gigs, but but it's about using it. You talked before about videos, and you running video workshops, and you're big on videos, so
Yes.
why is it what do you think it is about videos that really build up your business or build up your marketing and really get the message out there a lot punchier?
Well, it's very instant, first and foremost. As I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of people vying for your attention. So it's like, what's going to stop and grab them? And you'll see a lot of people talk about do Facebook Lives or do this, that, the other. And some people just don't want to. If they're completely introverted, just for example,
Yeah.
that they don't want to, or they say they put it on the long finger because they have to get the makeup on, they have to do whatever. But if you look at any of the big boys, any of the big experts in any field right now, what are they doing? They're communicating everything through video. So you've heard the saying, video, or sorry, a image, a picture tells 1,000 words. Well, a video kind of tells 10,000 pictures. So think about a movie, any ad or anything. You're able to put yourself into their place. Why do we weep at a video or something? Why do we get upset at it? Because there's so much going on. So, we're visually orientated by nature, predominantly. Contrast is a great way, and it can be done so easily in an image. So, say the diet profession, the before and after, or the guy that was hair loss before and after. And to bring somebody on a little story, put the emotion in and bring them on an emotional story, you can talk that, but people are time poor. So if they can see it in a quick video. So some of the videos we've been focusing on specifically are those direct marketing, direct response marketing videos. So you don't want to do a Facebook Live, you don't want to do it like that, but you want to get your name out. So do a 30 to 90-second video, and they can be done. Quite often what people forget is to script them.
Yeah.
And that's what I find. And it's two different parts of your brain to kind of try and write a script and try and put a thing together. So that's like on the weekend, we gave the guys a script and said, let's just get you doing the technical stuff. Because once you have a little bit of a script, then that's the story. You're going to put images into it, and you can tell a really impactful story in 30 to 90 seconds. That talks directly to your ideal client and gets them to know she gets me, she understands me, she's the person. So I don't know who you follow in the big marketing world or whatever, but from Anthony Robbins to
none of them.
Okay, you don't follow anybody. So who would be your favorite famous person, for want of a better word?
Oh wow, we're gonna have to come back to. I'm so not impressed by all big famous people. So I don't know.
But you're not impressed, but you'll see if you look on Facebook or even on LinkedIn, and that LinkedIn in particular, because I know you're on LinkedIn and all, has become much more video.
Yeah.
Have you noticed?
Yeah, I have noticed. Yeah.
And if professional marketers and the big movers and shakers of business are using even more and more video, well, there's something to be had in that.
Yeah.
And a lot of analysts, I've got a lot of stats on it, and I think it's 89% of professional marketers actually say that video alone has caused more sales, more brand awareness than anything else they've ever used.
Yeah.
So again, hopping on that, hang on, well, okay, if video is used, it's easy to find out that that's the case, but you get a lot of people that are going, but I don't know how to make it. I'm not tech savvy, blah, 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 because that was me. I was never tech savvy. Now, I spent this morning uploading all the recordings from the video workshop into the back end of our members page on the website. Me, I couldn't hardly use a computer 10 or 15 years ago, it's just ridiculous. But we have found, for example, one of the things we teach is a really simple software that you can actually do almost a click and go with a few tweaks.
Yeah.
You can, with one button, you can put your script in, one button, and you have the whole framework. Like, it's made so easy. Yes, you can go further with it. Yes, you can be more technical with it. But in absence of you being that technical, let's get started. Don't wait. And you know, and I know we're getting on a little bit. I don't feel old or anything like that. I don't mean that. But if you look back at, like, we would still remember the old phone and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, things are moving so fast technologically. If you don't keep up, the result is, in business in particular, you will fall down somewhere if you don't keep up in some way. So that's probably, I'm quite passionate about it, going, it's not as hard as you think. Come here and I'll show you.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And it's not as hard as you think. In fact, nothing is. You know, we've got very scared of computers and very scared of what we're going to build. But you can't bugger it up. You know, you just give it a go. And if you don't like that, just click undo or delete and just, you know, don't worry about it. But you're right. The videos that come out are just from what you're saying, you know, just click and go, just click and drag and off you go. They are so impactful and so powerful, and we should be using them a lot more. And I say that, and yet, you know, I keep saying every weekend, I've got to make a video, and yet I don't. I know, bugger it, I'll mow the lawn.
But you know what, but isn't that it? Because even though you know and you're able to make a video, there's still that putting it off kind of thing. So, you know, and some people have said that to me. So I've made some videos for other people because I get immersed in it, and I just see the little story and the images that you can get with it. It's just mind blowing. But people, I was the same. I cried over my keyboard for 26 hours. I am not kidding you. The first time my mentor actually sent me a task to make a video. Now, we had gone out, we had done some filming. I was all posh with my little video camera and all of this. And I thought, oh, we're in the city. We had our microphones, everything. And then he said, now take it off the disc and go make a video out of it, splice it and dice it, make a 90-second video. Holy guacamole. And he had shown me, but I was using the big boy. I was using Camtasia, like the big video editor. And I knew they had shown me a bit of it. But, you know, if you don't use it straight away, then you go, where do I start? And tracks were here and music was there. I cried, but something in me then, I suppose, fell away again and went, if somebody else can do this, so can I. So I just need to persevere past this. I can't do it. Old bullshit, I'm telling myself.
Yeah.
And I did. And now my record for making a video is 10 minutes.
That's fantastic. I can make them. I can make them. Don't worry about that.
That's what I mean. Yeah, you can. And you don't. Imagine somebody who can't.
I'm too busy bloody editing all my podcasts.
See? And imagine somebody who doesn't even have the skill to make them. They delay them even longer.
Yeah. No, I think they're incredibly powerful. You know, I've put a few up and they just go like rockets. You know, everyone loves them. But yeah, I know it's fantastic. When you talk about, you know, doing it for your ideal client, a lot of people say, I don't know who my ideal client is. How do I find my ideal client? You know? Oh
gosh. My favorite topic.
But I serve everybody, you know, but I want everybody to have this. And I was
that's what I call the spray and pray marketing is that one.
Yeah. I mean, I was guilty of that for a long time, you know, and I still have trouble because I have several different hats, you know, and it's kind of like,
I think we had a talk about that a long time ago.
Yeah. And I've still got several different hats because
But the illusion is that you can have more than one ideal client. We don't have to just have one. Yeah. But my when I'm talking to people is, well, let's start with one and let's get really clear on who that one is. And sometimes they merge over into each other and that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you don't know who one is and don't have some core messages that you're talking to. So my ideal client's a woman. Yeah. I still presented a video workshop to 50 men. Like, I mean, why? Because my message was right. I wasn't going to say, no, you're not my ideal client.
Yeah.
So my message was right. They needed somebody to teach video. But I wasn't talking to them from my head, if that makes sense. I was just talking to somebody who needed a video. So the big illusion is that if we look for one person, that we will, you know, absolutely knock everyone else off. That's not the truth, because if one person has a set of 5 to 10 different problems, somebody else will have two of them, somebody else will have one of them, somebody else, whatever.
Yeah.
So the people will still hear you. I quite often use, and I know we're on a podcast, but I'm showing a highlighter. I quite often use a highlighter, go, if I'm Carmel, the highlighter lady, and I'm telling you about the benefits of highlighter and how many different colors of highlighters, blah, 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 blah. When you're ready for a highlighter, you're going to remember Carmel, the highlighter lady.
Yeah. I love it.
So but it's that clear when you're talking about your message and it's on point. The right person will hear you, but other people will hear you when the time is right for them to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's vital. My biggest advice for anyone thinking about doing their ideal client is to start a Word document and just keep putting in there sentences that you see that people say, and you go, that's what I help people with. And start building up and make it a working document. Great resource there is like in Facebook groups, for example, or in LinkedIn or Reddit is another one.
Yeah.
And Answer the Public is another one. Where you can type in a topic and it'll tell you what people are asking around that topic on Google. Then you can be, you can be the answerer of the questions. That's very politically correct how I said that. The answerer of the question. See, my communication is amazing.
I love it. Well, I do have my ideal client Dan up on the wall over there. So yeah,
awesome.
He's beautiful. He's very colourful, and he's got love hearts around him as well. Because
I
only want to work with people, but that doesn't mean I exclude people. But people who are coming from the heart, So that's I really try to attract that. But I actually do pretty much always.
Yeah.
Amazing. So anyway, so tell us what's the biggest mistake you see people make when they're trying to promote their business?
Which one do I go with? Well, spray and pray marketing is probably the biggest one, where they're doing the do, like they're working. I have a few tools I use, which I'm sure you use some, like I use, Airtable and Asana, and you have all your Zooms and all this. So they're working hard. They're doing this head down, ass up. But what they're trying to do is hit everybody. They're just going, if I put the message out enough, and I've heard one person in particular say, don't worry about who your ideal client is. Just keep spraying and spraying and spraying, and eventually it'll stick. And I go, yeah, that's okay, but I'll be pretty exhausted by the end of that.
Yeah.
So that's the one biggest thing, is literally spraying and praying and being inconsistent with their message as well. Like, they'll put a post up, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn. I'm not advocating which it is, where your ideal client is most. Choose one and really build it there. Yeah. But wherever that is, if you decide to put a post up Monday and then you don't put another one up for 2 weeks, well, they're not really going to get to know, like, and trust you very easily, because you're not being consistent and you're not showing up consistent with the same message. So if I start talking about video and the next thing I'm out there and I'm telling you how to freaking change a light bulb, you're going to go, what the hell? If it's not a video light, I don't want to know about it. What's that got to do with it? So definitely spray and pray marketing, because they burn out and they get exhausted and they just can't keep doing it. And look, I did this myself in the early stages. I wasn't making money. I was teaching other coaches how to be coaches, but I couldn't tell anyone that I wasn't making any money, because I had this big, oh my God, they're going to think I can't do it. And then why should I be telling them?
Yeah.
So people aren't doing that, and then they slink off, and you'll notice a lot of people maybe, I know when I started my coaching, if I was to look at who you still see around the traps now that would have learned around the same time, they're all gone. They're nearly all gone, except for one or two, because they couldn't sustain it. Because they went out like a bull at a gate, and then there was no substance. In Ireland, we have a saying that it's like fur coat and no knickers. Like, it's like they look the part, but they've got nothing underneath.
I love that. Why don't we have that good saying?
Well, you can have it now. It's my gift to you. But that's it, and it brings up an image straight away. It's like she's all flamboyant and this, that, and the other, but she's no substance under it.
Yeah, it does. So, all right. So spray and pray. That's fantastic. I love that. How can people correct that? Like, how if you're one of these people that is just spraying and praying
and exhausted.
What do you do?
Look, and this is what happened when I went back to my mentor, and I always knew who's your ideal client, who's your avatar, and I knew in my head. And I remember going back to him, and he asked the same question, and in my internal dialogue, oh, this bloody thing again. But the truth was, it's the single most effective thing I've done, was to actually take the time and really work out who was my ideal client and how could I help her. And more than that, how can I communicate to her without telling her that I help her? So there's no point in going, hey, right, Karen, right, you want videos? Come on, I'll help you, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, anyone could say that. Well, it's more of a conversation. Well, let me discover, and this is really important. So if they pay attention when they're in networking meetings or whatever, they can go into discovery and really listen for the answers. We shouldn't always be listening to answer, because that's what we tend to do. We listen to answer instead of listening to hear. So I try, and I don't always succeed at it, especially in, your partner or whatever. But I do try and switch on that listening to hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
And find out where they are. Like, as I said, go on to Google, what kind of questions are they asking that's to do with what you do?
Yep.
Who is asking most of those questions? So there's a little bit of work to do on it. But compared to the work I had done around it for many years, it was a lot less. And it's still tweaking. I will still see, or something now, I have my avatar document that I add to it. And then I review it about once a year, and I'll tweak it and go, yeah, no, it's not that. It's actually a bit more of that. So start a Word document and do the work on who it is you help the most.
Yeah. And get rid of that thought too. And I had that thought, is that if I target only one person, I'm going to miss out on so many. And we've it's not true. And because as you're talking to the ideal client, other people are listening. Like you just said, other people are going to anyway.
To use analogies again, I always use the analogy of a dartboard.
Yeah.
And if my ideal client is that little bullseye in the middle, and they have 10 or 12 versions of, I'm not good enough, they're going to find out I can't do this, oh my God, what's wrong with me, whatever that is.
Yep.
And if you're always talking to that, if you look at the next ring out of that dartboard, they might have 7 of those same problems. The next ring out, they may have 5. Your outer ring, they might have 3. So they're only going to see you when that becomes urgent to them. Yep. I quite often call it the Panadol problem. What is people, if people have a headache, right? They just want something to fix the pain. They just want something right there and then. I'm going out tonight with the girls. I want to have a laugh. So give me something to help me have a laugh. They don't always want the just a fix. They want it for a reason. It's like people don't always want money. What do they want the money to do?
Yeah.
So when that problem becomes urgent and you have the right message, they will see you. So give them the Panadol, so they can go out and have fun that night. And next time they'll go, okay, she gave me the Panadol, so she can probably help me fix whatever it is that ails me so that I don't get the headache in the first place.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. See, this is your Irish coming out. You're making everything so colourful and so I love it. But so, like a lot of people are really intimidated by the word marketing, and they try to build it up to be something far more complex than it actually is. And we avoid it because it's like, oh my God, the whole marketing thing, but what is marketing specifically, and how can we embrace it more?
It's a great question and so spot on, because I was the same. I was like, oh, it's marketing. But the truth is, marketing is everything you do before a sale.
Yeah.
End of story. Every relationship you build, every post you put up. People say, oh, I don't do marketing. Have you ever had a job in your life? Yeah, well, then you marketed yourself to get the bloody job. It's just a word. You're right. We have hung a huge amount of negative connotations onto this marketing. Oh, they're just marketers. What? It's marketing, especially in a business like ours. So especially in, well, it's for all businesses, but when you're in an entrepreneurial world and you're building your business up, marketing is every minute thing you do before a sale.
Yep.
And
That's
that's
easy.
completely misunderstood.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
how can we embrace that more? How can we just say, oh yeah, that's great. So every time I talk to someone on marketing, I love this marketing business. How can we get more
Well, I
excited?
think you hit the nail on the head earlier. Sometimes you don't see it because you don't see it because you're in it. It's like you can't see the label of the bottle when you're inside it.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is getting somebody else to help you with it. Like I would have told you 5 years ago, had you said to me, Carmel, you're going to do marketing, I would have told you I'm not a marketer's backside. I had no idea. Until I started learning this, and I kind of go, I build relationships, I do whatever. That's all marketing. So it's about reframing it, but we sometimes can't reframe it. It's the same as, and I know you know this sort of thing, Karen. We've got annoyed with somebody because they've said something, and 6 months down the track, they've said the same thing, and we're going, wow, that doesn't bother me. Because somewhere in our head, we've reframed that they're just being a nuisance rather than they're attacking me. And that's just a way of reframing it. Everything in our life is stuff that we're making it mean.
Yeah.
How else do other people have different meanings for the same thing? If somebody raises their voice, for example, one person might say, oh, I'm going to get beaten up. Another person might say, and they're probably Irish, party! Yeah. So, it's just everything has the meaning that we give it. So if marketing has a negative connotation to you, well, then you need to kind of open it up and look at it and go, well, how can I, and much better question is how can I make this mean something different?
Yeah.
Because it is a word. It's a few letters on paper, really.
Yeah. And make it, how can I make it different? But how can I make it fun? I think that's another thing is how can I make it a bit of a challenge, and every time you have a conversation with someone, marketing, have a bit of fun with it. But
yeah, absolutely. I don't even think that I'm marketing. Do you know what I mean? I don't even go, oh, I'm going out marketing today. Probably a little bit different than you. I'm just building my business. I am just helping people. I'm just whatever. But that actually is marketing. So call it whatever the hell you like. But at the end of the day, to get your message to the people who need it most, so you can help them. And then, of course, a fair exchange, they can pay you in order to do it. Well, isn't that kind of the purpose of life, really? Because it's us the purpose of life is to find joy and purpose, and for it to have meaning to us. And if we can do that with our business as well, to me, that's a bloody win-win.
I do too, because what I read something fantastic. Yes, people are dying to go to work. And it's kind of it was something. Or people are dying to be in corporate or something like that. And it was that how many people have heart attacks on a Monday morning, because they're going to a job that they really hate. And as you say, imagine that we're living a life of meaning and purpose, and we have a job that brings meaning and purpose. Like that's just. That prevents all that kind of illness. It prevents that kind of stress. And I'm not going to say it's always a smooth run, because, we all know that especially when you're running your own business, there's massive headaches. But I'd still rather have the massive headaches and feel like I'm bringing meaning and, change to people, and I have a purpose. I'd still rather have the pain and the purpose than have nothing, than just be cold.
And people would say that to you too. Other people say, yeah, I would too. And I remember I ran an event in Ireland a few years ago, bucket list item, always wanted, 2 years ago, thank God I went then. And I remember, because every time I'd visit Ireland, certain people would say, oh my God, it's great when I chat to you. I wish you were here more often. I really want more of this stuff. So I ran it more as a purposeful thing. It was for women, and it was find your meaning and purpose, that kind of thing. And there was a few people in particular that had said these things that didn't show up. And I remember somebody said, I'm so upset they didn't show up. And I said, no, I know why they didn't. And they said, what do you mean? I said, to be able to complain and say, I wish it was better, is a comfortable place for them.
Yep.
To actually have to do something about it is too uncomfortable. It's too outside their comfort zone right now. So being unhappy where you are becomes comfortable because you're used to it.
Yep.
And it's not to knock anyone or anything, that's just where they're at. And that's why only 3% of the world's population actually, people move in and out of it, but there's only 3% that are financially free. It's not an easy ride to work, but it's not an easy ride to run your own business either.
Yeah. No. I've got a saying in my book, 97% of the world work for the 3% that took a chance or something.
Yes,
not exactly that, but it's very close to that. Yeah.
But that's so true. Like people come in and out of it. They say, why does it always stay at 3%? It's because some people go up and some people fall off it. Yeah. And you have to look and go, well, what's different about that? Why can't I have it?
Yeah.
And it's just a different way of thinking. And when you have a different way of thinking, you take different action and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And it's not even why can't I have it, because you actually can have it. It's just a mind shift, isn't it? It's just
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've loved this. I've absolutely loved it. An hour goes very fast when I'm having fun talking.
Oh, is it an hour? Oh my God.
An Irish woman. I love it.
I can't believe it's an hour.
And I've got a couple of, I'm going to ask you the get off the bench question, right? It's of course the podcast is, get off the bench to inspire people to take action and specifically believe in themselves, back themselves, let's go, that sort of stuff. What advice would you give? So let's say someone's trying to start up a side hustle or something like that, but they don't want to big note themselves, because a lot of people think, when I've got to sell myself, I've got to big note myself, I've got to talk about myself. What advice would you give them to be able to get around that, just to be able to sell themselves, get around that whole fear of talking about themselves?
Well, if they don't know how to do it, they need to go to somebody who does. They need to get some help. They need to get a mentor or a coach or something like that will guide them through that. The reason I have my mentor is he's a multi-millionaire. He's, I suppose, for one of an example, in the 3%, he's completely financially free.
Yep.
And I'm going, I want some of that.
Yeah.
How do I now? And business is just a vehicle you choose on the way.
Yeah.
So it's really the first thing is making it simple. If you're just starting, and find out, well, what do I do and who does it help the most?
Yeah.
And who do I need help from to guide me through this?
That's simple.
One of the best investments is making an investment in yourself.
Yeah. And we do have to start talking about ourselves to some degree. Like we can't just sit in a corner and think that people are going to come to us. They're not.
But it's the same as the job. And, one of the things, somebody mentioned it to me recently, actually, about making, we've seen certificates for different courses, find a certificate template. And actually start making a certificate for yourself for every new skill you learn.
That's
and
great.
Make it a wall of progress.
That's fantastic.
Because we forget until you come 2 or 3 years, as I talked about the techie stuff there earlier. If you had told me to go into the back end of a website, like I've had that same website for 10, 11 years, told me to go into the back end of it, I would have dived for the hills. I would have gone anywhere rather than I didn't even know how to log into it. And now I'm in there and I was messing around and moving things around and whatever like that.
I love that idea.
Yeah. So we'll find a nice one, nice is going to make it look, and make a wall of progress. So I could put up, I have the skill of video making, I have the skill of video editing for the other, the bigger boy of it. I've done accidental podcasts, the camera side didn't work, so we just had audio, but I was still able to edit it enough, use it as a podcast if I want. Like there's so much. And if you can catch somebody to start them earlier, go, every time you learn a new skill, just make yourself a little certificate.
I love that. I'd have to put mine in a book because I haven't got enough wall space.
Yeah. I reckon if I sat down and did it, I would possibly be the same. Maybe we can just put the advanced certificate. But even that, it's a good reminder of how far you've come.
I agree.
Because it does, I mentioned it earlier, that unconscious competence, it goes into, it's like driving a car. When you first get in, it's like mirror, and if you're manual, it's like clutch, brake, blah, blah, blah. Now, I sometimes drive from here to somewhere and go, how the hell did I get here? It's such an unconscious pathway, I've forgotten. So what that happens is, and I'm sure you know this, Carol, that only takes this tiny little bit of your brain. Whereas when you're learning a new thing, it takes so much brain space in that moment. So they just keep going down. So then you forget that you know how to do it. You just do it. So that unconscious competence. And I find so many people like yourself, Karen, that have built business and, you know, are doing it over the years. And somebody comes back and says, oh, that's great. Show me how to do that. Like you with the team building, you're going, what? What are you talking about? Because it's exactly what they need, but you've kind of pushed it away because you're able to do it standing on your head.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. And you've got some workshops coming up. You've always got workshops and courses on your website and that sort of stuff. And you know, people should. Have you got something coming up soon?
Well, I've just done a workshop last Saturday. Actually, I just did a workshop on how to make "Shut Up and Give Me Your Money" videos. Shut up! Can't just make normal videos. The next one is a couple of months away, but you can hop on the website. We do have them there that are pre-recorded that you can actually purchase anyway. But also I do some one-on-one intensive. If somebody's in a hurry and they want it, it's like, come on, I'll show you, we'll get those videos out, and or I'll make some videos for them, whichever is whichever hurry that they're in.
I love it. And you've got a retreat coming up too in Perth, I think, in the hill.
Well,
maybe
we have to wait and see. So we have had, our first retreat was in Tassie. We've had a couple in Perth now. So that's usually an all-inclusive retreat, but it's more of a business / marketing retreat. So where we get in there and we actually unhook your message and make sure we get your core message. We get you making a video. Participants all walked away with a video. We did it with the green screen in the background. And then we put the non-techie person, remove the green screen and actually put in whatever logo or whatever they wanted behind. So they left with a really schmicko, ready to go video, Carmel, ready to go. So that retreat is kind of on a maybe, depending on what happens with the environment we find ourselves in, but they are usually in November.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. But all that stuff's on the website. So my last little dab here is, where can people find you? So tell us about the website, LinkedIn, Communication Queen.
It is www.thecommunicationqueen.com.au or LinkedIn, or I am all over Facebook as well, and Instagram. So Carmel Murphy. You can find me anywhere. I'm not the girl in New Zealand though. But if you go into Facebook, just private message me. I'm very fortunate to have an amazing VA that works with me too. So I'm not going to sit here and profess that I'm on social media every 2 minutes watching for your message. But my VA will certainly let me know when messages come in as well. So she's the person that backs me up. I'm very fortunate. I work with another young girl called Sarah, who's a copywriter too. So there's a whole team of us here.
That's fantastic. And you also, don't you have a YouTube channel? You got to use,
yes,
for feck's sake videos.
For feck's sake marketing adventures with Carmel. The YouTube channel originally started as a place to store videos, because somebody told me very wisely, never delete any of your content, always save it. So where can I save it? So I put it on YouTube, and then discovered I had 100 videos there, and I went, oh. So we've spruced it up a little bit, and then I love, like yourself, talking to people. And I went, oh, well, how can I do that? So we developed for feck's sake marketing adventures. So feck is a word you can say in Ireland in front of your parents. It's not actually a swear word, but everything is, for feck's sake. And it was brought to mind for marketing, specifically for tips, insights, maybe things I've tried and haven't worked, or things that have worked, and also to interview some amazing people that we can see their journey and where were their mistakes in their marketing, or what would they do that was different, and that sort of thing. So yeah, so that's all on YouTube as well.
Fantastic. Oh, I love it. And you're
Just
so
Google
right.
me.
Yeah. But you're so right about how, other people's journeys. It's so valuable to listen to other people's journeys because, and particularly not to go, oh, they're so successful, maybe I could do that, but to actually learn the mistakes because every successful person has a ton of mistakes that they've made. And,
Yeah.
if any of us get up there and say, oh, I've got this great business, it's fantastic, and I've had this smooth run, you're a bullshit artist because it never works like that.
They're a fur coat, no knickers. And you're so right. And I think even more than that is when you get to see people or hear their voices, like with the podcast, you actually get the opportunity to connect with them.
Yeah.
So you get the opportunity to build that know, like, and trustability as well. And as you would know, you've been on my show as well. I quite often go without letting the people know what the questions are being. So it shows that there's a bit of care. I'm not just asking you these bullet point questions, just as you've done today. So it gets people to know, like, and trust me.
Yeah.
But they can sit themselves into that other person. So like you and I had something in common, obviously both having lost sisters, for example. So the minute I heard you say that, I was like, oh, yes, wow, she's like me. And if she can do it, so can I. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very, very, very powerful. And that's another way with video. Another last thing about video, if you're doing videos like that interview, or you would know podcast, you can make so much content in one video. Yep. Oh my God. You can make little quotes out of it and quote cards. You can make a podcast out of it. You can make a blog out of it. It's only one video.
Yep.
Yeah, just so much.
You were just making me think that today. I'm thinking, geez, you've said so many great little things that were I need to go back and listen again and pull them all out.
Well, you know what you need to do. One last tip is you need to put it into Otter. I'm sure you've heard of Otter.
Yep. Yeah.
So you can actually import the video into Otter and it brings up the whole lot. And for me, then I can scan and go, that'll be a good quote. That'll be a good quote. Hop onto Canva. See, the non-techie person, hop onto Canva and make some nice image with your brand colors, with that quote, and put it out there.
Fantastic.
So cool. Yeah.
There's so many things. Well, guys, get on over to Carmel's pages, all of them, even the ones that she's forgotten, like the YouTube one, and start following along. But Carmel, I have absolutely loved this chat, and you're a bloody gem. I love you. I have from the minute I bloody met you, and I just got this.
Karen, same. It's been amazing. I think we could talk probably for 2 hours. So
yeah, I reckon if I come to Perth, I think it'll be a long night in an Irish bar.
Hey, mate, I know a few of them.
I bet you do. Well, thank you so much for, blessing us with this information. You've made marketing seem so much more simple, and I just hope people start to embrace it, including myself. I need to be, more embracing of it. But I just love you. You're full of gems, full of wisdom, gold nuggets, and you've got a heart of gold. And that's,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Karen. You can only see what you have in yourself.
Wow, thank you. I just don't have the Irish pot of gold yet, so I'm going to try and find.
Just watch out for the rainbow and the leprechauns. The leprechauns can be vicious little buggers.
I'm going with the unicorn rainbows, but yeah.
All right, my darling.
Thank you so much, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Thank you. You too. See ya.